Hey guys, today we're covering hip abduction. This is episode 4 of Hip 360. We will be working on improving active range of motion and control in hip abduction. Also, I want to tell you a little bit more about why hip abductors are so essential to our aging, our longevity, and staying active in the midlife and beyond. Your hip abductors, those are two muscles located on the side of the hip called gluteus medius and gluteus minimus. Glute medius, which is more external, which is more superficial, and glute minimus, which is very deep and blends with the capsule. Standing on one leg, I'm standing on my right, my left leg moving, that's my abduction. Now, if I stand on my left leg and I move my pelvis around the femur, that's also abduction, but that's closed kinetic chain. It means that the leg is grounded. In open kinetic chain, the femoral head, the femur will be moving laterally and superiorly, while the femoral head inside the joint glides inferiorly. This glute medius is in this sort of triangular shape or fan shape, and I just want you to be aware that there are two compartments, anterior and posterior. And due to its location, anterior compartment, if it's working a little bit more, it will rotate or cause internal rotation of the femur, while posterior compartment, those fibers may create more external rotation of the femur, right? So you want all the fibers, both compartments to work well, so you can produce good hip abduction and not bias the femur into any rotation more than the other. And glute medius and minimus contract isometrically. They fire to keep your pelvis level. So guys, every step you take, there is a moment where one leg is firmly grounded on the floor and the other one is swinging in the air. This is where hip abductors come in. When you walking, when you have the stance phase and that swing phase on the other side, the hip abductors on the standing side will be activating isometrically to prevent your pelvis from dropping. So if you see someone walking that way, it could be that actually they're shifting because the hip abductors are not firing as they should. When you're standing on one leg, the pelvis should stay level, right? So these muscles are firing okay, these muscles are firing okay. If this occurs, it means that these muscles are not doing what they should. Guys, this is important because if you're doing a lot of walking or a lot of running, well, you want to make sure that those muscles are firing so that there's no constant lateral tilt, there's no constant hiking in the hips, creating repetitive strain on the lower back. Hip abductors, they main function is to stabilize the hip. What they do, they compress the femoral head into the acetabulum and resist both rotational forces as well as destructive forces at all angles of hip flexion. So when you're lunging, in order to prevent this happening, you want good hip abductors. When you're squatting, in order to prevent this, you also want good abductors, so you can go into the squat well. Something that deserves emphasis is that lower gluteus medius strength is directly linked to increased knee abduction during movements like jumping and landing tasks. So ladies, this one is particularly directed towards you because problems with gluteus medius insertion, bursa, and tendons are frequently occurring in females, especially females over 50. So in order to protect your ACL, MCL, your medial meniscus, protecting your knees from going inwards, especially when you're jumping, to avoid this and to avoid this, we want to strengthen these muscles. There's one more hip abductor. It's a secondary abductor, your tensor fascia lata. This is the muscle that tenses your iliotibial band, but it also contributes to hip abduction. Guys, there is a direct link between weakness or pain in the lateral side of the hip and the lower back is really due to neurological supply. The nerves that go from the lower back, from levels L4, L5, S1, your superior gluteal nerve, if there is any compression on the path of the nerve to those muscles, like disc prolapse, could be arthropathy or hypertrophy of the facet joints and like the narrowing of the passages of the nerves, there may be weakness or issues with the lateral hip. So the hip pain or weakness may not always be due to hip pathology, okay? So I just want you to be aware of it. And the drills you're going to see in a moment, those are not just any butt exercises, that's infrastructure of every standing movement you make. It's so essential to our locomotion and our aging and our longevity and enjoying life for the decades to come. Okay guys, so first thing in improving range of motion in hip abduction is improving passive range of motion. You can do that by working with your adductors. So they are really the muscles opposite that bring your legs back together. So working on the groin and inner thigh area, you can follow my two-part series of No Struggle Straddle. I will take you through inner thigh stretches with also isometric contractions and working towards the end range of motion to improve your flexibility. Now in this video particularly, first I want to show you how we can improve active range of motion. So provided you already have enough flexibility that your thighs actually move sideways, we're going to be now working on end range control. Let me show you how to set it up first. Well, to know how high you need to lift or how far you have to work, it would be nice to know what is your passive range of motion. If I were to be very pedantic about me being in neutral, then roughly that would be my abduction, right? So from here to here, that's my passive range of motion. I'm sort of now at the bony end, right? So my acetabulum and femoral sort of head and neck are meeting, and that's probably the end of the range. If I wanted to go deeper and work towards side splits, like I'm showing you in my two-part series working on adductors, I would be going into anterior pelvic tilt, which would create more external rotation, and that of course would give you more range of motion. But anyway, that's not the topic. Let's go into finding out what are the degrees that you need to work on to make sure that actually you can control more of the range you have. So first thing I normally do in my classes, I tend to simply teach lifting the leg. This is how we establish end range. So I can lift the leg that high. That's pretty much zero range of motion in abduction. Anything here is adduction. So I can work in 10 degrees or 20 degrees, and then, I'll get somewhere here, and this is where the work really starts. So this is my end range of motion, short range, because the muscle is shortening. So in order to really focus on that bit here, I will actually change my position. Now, before I change my position, I just want to point something out that, guys, lots of people just lie down on the side and do the lift. But look what's happening with my back, right? I can do everything. Instead of actually working, isolating the hip, I may be compensating from my thoracic and lumbar spine. And this is not what we want. So to be really accurate, to be strict about this, I like to block my rib cage and support my head. So my torso, my neck, my lumbar spine are not participating, okay? And from here, I'm trying to find pure abduction. Notice when I talked about anterior and posterior fiber, I've seen this in pretty much every class that I've been teaching abduction. Many people go here because the external rotators and the posterior fibers are taking over, right? And also glute max is taking over and the deep hip rotator. So they go here. But really think of big toe turning to the ground. So then the outside edge, the little toe and outer heel are parallel to the ground. So now I'm working evenly through posterior and anterior fiber and central fibers of the glute medius and minimus. Next point, if I can go here, I will move my upper body to get closer to the end range. So I will also block my rib cage, and this is how I tend to teach this. You block the rib cage from moving, so this is really the position now. You see, this is as high as I can lift my leg. There's still a lot of movement, right? Here I'm at a mid-range, so I actually want to get to the top or the end of the range. So I'm gonna go even a little bit higher. And for my hip, I need to get somewhere to here and block my upper body so I can actually produce contraction and the end range of motion. And this is how I normally would train my hip abduction. I will take a deep breath in, ribcage expands, I will pack the air down, brace my abdominals, so I want to stiffen this part from pelvis up, okay? I will lean forwards as well, and push this leg down so I'm still, and the only thing that will lift is that whole leg, right leg. So I take the deep breath in, press hands down, brace, and I'm trying to do little elevation, but without this, okay? You see a lot of people doing drills and showing this, and yes, the movement occurs, but there is compensation occurring at the same time. So try to be as strict as possible. You can go lower, you can go all the way down, but this would be my end range of motion. So my hip abduction is here, and I'm lifting. And again, you may want to be tempted here and use more flexors and external rotators, but try to stay in pure abduction. Brace, pack air down, stiffen, lift, hold, slowly parachute your foot down. Breath in, press down, stiffen. And I'm still trying to keep my neutral position of the foot with big toe turning slightly down. Press, lift, down. So guys, this is the hardest version. Oh, that's a lot of work. That's end range. So if you're doing martial arts, if you want more control, this is the way to go, guys. But it's also good for just general health of the hip. Now, you can modify this. I like to do this sometimes to add variety to my training. So I'm going to start a long lever, bend the knee. I'm not really moving the hip. So this is short lever, okay? And then I set it down. So maybe this will be the easier thing to start with. So I'm still trying to keep my knee and my ankle and even my little toe level. So I'm doing pure abduction. So you can work from short lever to the long lever and then back down. But at all times, I'm trying to keep my upper body really still, and I'm not trying to flex the hip. So my knee stays in line with the shoulder and hip. And yes, you may end up feeling your QLs and obliques, but we don't want the movement. We're just bracing and holding the position. Of course, you could come down lower and do it from here. And then I'm really trying to press my rib cage into that support. Okay, guys, 2 more setups for end range control. You can do it in 4-point kneeling. This is going to be abduction in flexion, and you will need elevation. So 4-point kneeling, and I'm going to work with that tiny lift. So I'm trying not to rotate my pelvis. I'm grounding, bracing, and then elevating the knee. And then just my body weight, just the weight of the leg. And we're trying to, again, eliminate any twisting or rotation in the lumbar spine or in the other hip. So that's level 1, short lever. Now the long lever version will be a little bit tougher. So guys, we want to be here. Again, same setup like for the short lever, but now you're trying to lift your whole leg. And that's, guys, very helpful for good control, for sports, but also if you want to go into side splits. And again, don't expect the leg going very far because their leg is already abducted and we're close to the end range. The most important is that you learn how to isolate. So those are, guys, a couple of setups to work end range of motion. Now let's go to just general strengthening exercises for glute medius for more of the stability of the hip. Now let's move on to adding resistance and also working with a range that is useful, positions that are useful for daily life and daily activity. So I like to work with a resistance band for it, and using the wall. So let me point out what we're doing. So you're going to be working on your abduction on the right side while pushing your hand into the wall. So your standing leg, your torso, and your hand that is pushing into the wall will create a frame and restriction, tummy braced. And I'm having my band just above my ankle joints, so kind of lower calf, and I'll be producing abduction on this side, but both sides are working. Like I've explained to you earlier, this will be keeping pelvis level while this will be fighting the resistance. So you push into the wall, you brace. I'm trying to prevent flexion or anterior pelvic tilt, and I'm going to stay neutral, so tail into floor, and I'll abduct. At the same time, I'm pressing my hand into the wall so I can prevent any compensation from the mid-back, lower back, and any other part of the body. I will not do it as balanced because I really want to create a good restriction and good isolation. And to have a solid setup, you cannot be moving, right? You want to be really still. Your pelvis is
fixed, so it ends up being an open kinetic chain for my right leg. When I taught that in classes, what I tend to see, it's always that people go here and use external rotation and flexion, just like in side lying. So trying to stay really with feet parallel to one another. So I ground and root, squeeze the glutes, and then we work pure abduction. And this is a light band. I just want a little bit of restriction so I can feel the work. And I'm staying tall, stacking my ribs over my pelvis. I bring it back. Okay, so that was my favorite drill on working on control of the hip and also still working through as much range as possible. Now I'm going to show you some modifications, things you can do again at home to work bilaterally. Those are a little more accessible setups. So you can lie down fully and work from here. And again, I'm watching my feet, my toes are pointing up. So you can work from here, you can elevate a bit and be in a more flexed position of the pelvis and hips, and then we abduct. And that's really the very accessible position. It's not necessarily my favorite, but I know that some people will not be comfortable doing any other setup than this. Again, create that environment and create those restrictions so that there's no compensation. So here we go. I can relax my upper body. I can really push my shoulders, ribcage, and pelvis into the ground. The lower leg pressing into the band while the top leg, again, not going here, but staying parallel. And that's a nice drill. If using the band is too much, then try this variation. I really like doing this. And that will work on anterior and posterior fibers of glute medius. So we can rotate internally and externally. So this is at pretty much 0 degrees abduction. I'm in neutral hip, but glute medius is already, and minimus are both already firing. You can do the same thing by lifting the leg a little bit higher and doing a pivot up here. And that's a nice way to balance out that strength between anterior and posterior fibers.
Okay guys, that's all I've got for you for today. If you found this video valuable, please give it a like, subscribe for more content. We're going to be talking about hips a lot more. And also, if you know someone who may benefit from this message in this video, share this link with them. Thanks, and I'll see you soon.